Hello, everyone. It's Crystal Hill, CEO and founder of Hill House Publishing. And today we are having another author conversation today with Carmen Benton, who is a retired corporate executive, mom of three, professional speaker, and master intuitive mindset energy host. Welcome, Carmen. I'm excited to have a chat with you.
Hi, Crystal. Thank you for having me today.
It's wonderful. So we met through mutual friends and people who have been in previous multi-author books here at Hill House Publishing. And yeah, I'd love to hear, firstly, tell me a little bit more about your journey from, where are you from originally? How did you get into the corporate world? And how then did you make that transition into what I believe now is your purpose work?
Yes, thank you. So I'm originally from Panama, the country, and I have been in the US for 25 years now. And corporate, it's really the only thing I've known. So my certainty growing up, the programming I got from my mom was you have to study, you have to work so you can be safe. It's the only path that I knew. And so, on knowing that also I had some childhood traumas that made me seek praise and reward all the time, I not only became, an engineer and then a corporate person who climbed the ladder all the way to executive, but I was a workaholic who was always going for not just the goal, but like the extra mile, always trying to get the next praise, the next promotion, the next, you know, um, satisfaction, the next success. Because it's just what it was missing when I was growing up. And, I didn't know, right? This is just who I was. And so that's what you do. You
Mm.
work hard and you are safe.
Isn't it interesting, just to quickly interrupt here? When we don't get praise as children, we create a trauma response that then makes us overcompensate for it as adults and go into the patterns that you've just described.
Yes. It
So, for all the parents out there, right? Praise your children.
Oh my goodness. So it actually, I've seen it go both ways. You can either be, and I actually just interviewed someone in my podcast, and it was like the tale of two trauma histories. And we had the same core childhood wound, but I became an overachiever and she became the underdog. And it could be the opposite. It could be the no, 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 I'm going to thrive and succeed and be the best and grind it. Or you can be like, I'm just going to chill here and do nothing because there's no point to it. Right.
Yeah.
So it could be both.
Yeah, that's Maria. Maria agrees. She's in our next multi-author book, Beyond Conditioning.
Um,
It can totally go both ways, right? And it just depends on the makeup that we're made of. And I know that in the chapter, you actually speak about the different trauma responses that we can have, and that you're a specific number. And I
mhm.
think you've just described what that is. And I was like, oh, I'd never heard of this before. Tell me more.
Yes. So it's the Enneagram methodology. And it's something that I thought it was all mainstream. And then the more I talk about it, the more people like don't know what I'm talking about. And even like my TikToks like totally took off when I started instructing people in each of the 9 different types. And different like than other personality tests, the Enneagram actually classify you, put you in a little box. Yes, I know, but they put you in a little box based on your trauma response. And so there is people who are triggered by judgment. There's people who are people pleaser. There's people who just want to be the life of the party because they feel inadequate being silenced and quiet. I'm sure we all know some people like that. And in my case, the Enneagram 8 is the challenger and the protector. So my job since I was a little girl, it was to protect myself and my little brother. Because unfortunately, we had a kind of not very nice stepdad. And I feel like at 8 years old I was a full grown mature woman because I had to become that to keep myself safe. But with that comes all kind of inabilities to really form relationships because they hurt. And so, I was very, very successful in my professional life, life, in my career, but my personal life was quite frankly a disaster. And I talk a lot about it in the book, and how it was losing the connection with my children what really um, helped me awaken, right? Like, I've been getting all these signs of burnout, and the universe has been like tapping my shoulder for a long time, and I've been like, no, no, that's just me. It's in my head. It's like, what? Not everybody has migraines. Like, isn't that like a
Mm.
normal thing? Isn't like everybody has like peptic ulcers? I'm sure everyone has, stomach problems to deal with stress. So I like made it. I normalized all the physical signs I had. I normalized how exhausted I was. I normalized the fact that I couldn't really keep a relationship. But it was really when, one day I woke up and my son, who is a teenager, didn't want to hang out with me anymore because I had a girlfriend. That was really shocking for me, and made me put things in perspective and look at my life and realize, I do have other children, and maybe I have time to do something about that. And just open a whole world of, self healing and self discovery, and that led me here.
Mm. And so what is here? Where is here? And I think there are so many people who are in corporate, who are successful. They have that paycheck that gives them the security. And talking about beyond certainty, and really finding the courage to embrace the unknown. I think your story, that the way you did that jump, that leap from the corporate into your purpose work. And I'm using these words deliberately because that's what your whole chapter is based around, right? And we don't want to give everything away, but maybe just share if there was one tip that you would pass on having done this jump and this transition, what would that be?
Hmm. I would say that the most important thing is that you are true to yourself. Not everybody's purpose work is to quit their job and become a coach, right? I've been called to this, and I've been called for a long time. Uh, I I ignore it. I was quieting the voice of the universe, and it just got louder and louder. And it was like, eventually, it just hit me in the face. It's like, you gotta do this. But even if your purpose work is to be a better leader, to be a better employee, to be a better mom, to be a better dad, to be a better friend, your purpose work is not what you do, is what you are. And so, really being honest with yourself. And what I do in my chapter is I guide you through some series of questions that led me to making the decision that I made, leaving my job, and why I did it the way I did it. But I also give other options for the readers. Again, we're not gonna spoil it. But I would say it's just really being honest with yourself, tapping into your intuition, and being willing to receive the message because it's there. You are getting it already. If you don't know what it is, you're probably, you know, too crowded in your head. So you got to drop into your body and connect with that.
Yeah, exactly. When we don't know, when we're living in confusion, we're too busy thinking. And yeah, do you have a tool? Like, I remember just before we jumped on, we had some technical issues, and we're both like, okay, I'm just going to go into the garden and ground for 2 minutes, and then everything will be fine. So I think that's very quick way in which you can get rid of the busyness. Is there anything else that you share with your clients now?
I know there's a lot of buzz with mindfulness and meditation and whatnot, but I feel that for someone who's starting the journey of self discovery, meditation, it's one of the easiest tools. And I was brought up Catholic, and so born and raised Catholic. And I remember the first time I told my mom I was going to meditate, she was like, "What? Like, this is like I'm going to do something bad, right?" And the words that came out of my mouth, which now I'm used to, like the channeling that comes through me, like, but it was something so accurate, and I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is." Meditation is nothing but waiting to receive the answer to your prayers. Because when we're praying, we're asking, 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 asking. Imagine your children, right? Like when they want something, they're nagging, nagging. I want McDonald's, I want McDonald's, I want McDonald's, right?
Oh, I know that one.
Right?
Yes.
So if you just allow space to receive the answer, then you can go and take some inspired action with that. So I
Mm.
really would say the meditation, and obviously I'm an energy coach as well, and with that is protection of your energy, because there's so many influences from other people. I mean, we are all interacting with each other's auras in the quantum field, and you might be exposed to someone's negativity, or your parents or your spouse or whoever is around you, and then all of a sudden you are experiencing feelings and emotions that are not even yours. So one of the first thing I teach my clients is to protect the energy, which is very simple. I mean, there's layers and layers of protection, but one simple is intention. The power of intention is so profound, right? So if you just, before a meeting, before uh, talking to someone that makes you feel a little off, we all know, those people that you might have an interaction. It's like, oh, I was feeling great until I talked to that person. Well, there is some negative energy going on, or heavy energy, and having compassion, because we don't know what they're going through. But in order to protect yourself, is set an intention that only positive, loving energies are going to interact with your aura, with your field. And that is a very easy thing that I've taught my kids. Like, they do that before they go to school. Today was the first day of high school. So I was telling my daughter, okay, you do your affirmations, you protect yourself, go get them.
Mm. How are your children, just out of personal curiosity, like how are your children responding to that kind of advice? Are they willingly taking it on, or are they like, oh, mom, this is like mom's woo-woo stuff?
It depends on the age.
Yes. Okay.
So my oldest one, he's 16. He's a little too cool for
Uh-huh.
anything I have to say. But my daughter, who's 14, she's very gifted too, and she is all over anything that has to do with energy. Um, and she loves, and her friends is so cute because her friends all follow me in social media, and I'm an open book. And then my littlest one, again, super gifted. He is also autistic, and he transmutes people's energy, even mine. Like, and so I very early in my journey got that message and taught him how to ground. So, even if it's in the classroom, or, after being around a lot of people, it's a quick grounding with breath, doing a little bit of breath work and just releasing that energy. Obviously, he doesn't understand what grounding is, but like through breathing, it's something that he can grasp. Mhm.
Mm. That's really great. I do say to my children as well, do ground, but I think I'll be a lot more intentional about what I give them before they go to school. I mean, my son homeschools already, but my daughter still goes to school, so she sometimes needs that. So we've talked about our children. We've talked a little bit about healing. I'm curious, who is the ideal person that you absolutely love helping with your healing, and how does that work?
I love coaching a high achieving person. And I have a lot of masculine energy in me, just the way I was brought up. I'm an engineer by education. I have a master's. I work in the telecommunication industry. So I was always surrounded by men. So I understand and speak their language. and I don't get intimidated, not a little bit about it. But also the mom who is trying to make it and is so driven that it is very important for her to prove to the world, probably also an Enneagram 8, that she's worthy of the opportunities, of the recognition, of the praise, of the equality, without having to give up on her family. Because quite frankly, all those things were great, but the moments that now I have slowed down and treasure with my children are priceless, right? And one of my revelations is that they go away, right? Like the kids, like I thought I had until 18. No, life happens once they hit high school. They have their friends and they're cooler than you are. And so you don't have OTA until they are 18. And so the time gets compressed. And so, yeah, so that driven individual, men or women, but that struggles with finding that balance. And there's always this cycle of shame and guilt, because it doesn't matter what you do, you don't feel good about yourself because you want to work. But if you're working, you feel like you're not a good parent or a good partner. And if you are spending time with your family, you feel like you should be working. And in that process, you never take care of yourself. So you're starting to get burned out. You're starting to feel depleted. You're starting to feel exhausted. And before you go and burn the bridges and, trash it all your efforts, it is a good idea to get center and balance. And from a place of consciousness, then decide if what you want to do is to, step down or move forward or change careers or whatever it is, but not from desperation.
Exactly. When we make decisions from desperation, there's definitely no inspired action that can come from that at all, and no flow and opportunities. Yeah, you have quite a few beautiful modalities that you use that sort of, I don't know if it makes you unique, but like share with us a little bit about the sound healing and how sound healing and the healing work that you're doing all kind of come together. And then there's also sacred geometry, I understand. So just talk a little bit about how do you work with somebody? Well, what would they expect coming to you with these things?
Yeah. So what is very funny is that I am a very left brain person, believe it or not. And so everything I do, I have to fact check it, right? Like, is this really going to work? Right. So even though you might come across my social media and some videos are very logical and some videos are very woo woo. I mean, I could be doing a healing online and, put it there. I really have fact checked everything. And so one of the things that came to me is this complete alignment between mind, the body, and the soul, which is what I believe the 5D ascension is really all about. And I got this name, Amplify Alignment, and I had this picture, and I had the mindset. I have studied mindset coaching for 20 years. Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn. I mean, like biggest names out there. So NLP. So I got that down, but I found, obviously I couldn't heal me because a lot of my traumas weren't even mine. And I didn't know that. And so then I got exposed to the energy world. And in the energy world is really addressing your soul. And when you address your soul, you realize that, a lot of the things that you're experiencing today, that you might be going to therapy for 14 years and nothing is moving, is because you don't have a conscious recollection of it. Therefore, talk therapy doesn't do anything because it's not like you can go and remove it, right? Traumas get passed down to the DNA, and there's studies. So here's where the fact checking comes. There is studies from Harvard University that trauma can pass down up to 14 generations. And so that is, it's just incredible. But then
It's a lot. 14 generations of
right?
trauma, all compounding and being passed on. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're trying to like, why do I get triggered by this thing? Like one of the studies was like with mice, and they chalked a mouse or they were giving them a scent. And so 14 generations later, just a scent will trigger the descendants, right? And so it's like, here you are, you get triggered with something and you have no idea why. When someone does this, you get triggered, right? It's like the whole, and then you go to therapy, it's like, oh no, that makes me lose my temper every time. I have no idea why. Well, because it wasn't yours, right? And so energy helps with that. And the modality of energy that I'm trained on is sacred geometry in light and love. And so sacred geometry, it's the foundation of life. Again, fact check it. Like the way the embryo gets formed, it all makes sacred geometry. Starts with the spheres, it makes a cube, then it makes the Metatron cube and the spirals. I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. When you start like looking around, it's like, yeah, nature, the universe, galaxies, there are spirals, and it's all so beautiful. But I felt like something was missing, because it's like, okay, how do we get the body? And the reason I wanted to get the body is because emotions get trapped in your body, and this is where chronic illnesses come. And I mean, I had a story where I had a hip pain about 2 years ago, and I was limping and I couldn't walk, and I went to the doctor, they couldn't find anything, and I'm like, well, I want to go see a surgeon. So I got a referral, I got an MRI, all of the Western medicine things, and they were all looking at me like I was crazy because there's nothing wrong. And I'm like, but it hurts. And doing that, I got into EFT, so emotional freedom technique, and I was doing it. And I believe in it. I think it works. It takes a long time, in my opinion. I want it to be fast and long lasting. And so I was introduced to breath work, and that is like the magic medicine of the century. But when you do it all together, which is what I do, my sessions are a compound combination of mindset, energy, and breath work. The transformations I see in my clients are, quite frankly, amazing. And there's nothing makes me happier than get on a call and see my clients smiling. And today I was having this conversation with a client, and I'm like, so tell me about your week. And he's like, well, I didn't have any time to feel sad. I'm like, darn it.
That's amazing.
Right? And this is a person who
Oh,
was chronically depressed and anxious and in fear and in lack. And, it's been, I think, like 6 months that we were working together. And it was just like, the highlight of my day. No reason to
nice.
feel sad.
That's fantastic. And so you're obviously tuning into all these generations and the ancestors as well, and you get intuitive downloads, and then you have your tools to be able to transmute and heal it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
amazing.
So
Hmm.
people who do energy, whether they know it or not, I do it consciously. It's because we're interacting energetically all the time, even through this screen. Our fields are right now interacting, and so you can tune, when you have the tools, your energy to a point where you can heal just by listening, just by sending love, just by being there. You can ground people just by your presence, and the same way that I was asking you to protect, because inadvertently someone can take you down, vibrationally speaking, just by being around you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's such amazing work. And it's, when you don't know, looking in from the outside, it feels like it's just magic. And in a way it is, right?
Mhm.
It's beyond what we can see. So if anybody, is curious and maybe has some of the symptoms or experiences that you've described, Carmen's website is right there in her name. You can reach out to her here. But I want to just come back to the book, because we're launching in exactly a week's time, which is so exciting. And what would you say was your personal journey or your personal growth that came from being a part in this book and really reflecting on your journey and writing it down?
It was so beautiful how this all came about, because um, you mentioned it. I was introduced to you by a friend who was in the previous book, and it was right after I had quit my job, and she said, "Oh, I think you want to check into this. She's very gifted too. And when I saw the title of the book, I'm like, oh, I know a thing or two about stepping into uncertainty. So I think I can do it. Um, but there's something about getting inside of yourself and putting in paper your journey, your story. Is so healing for the author. And I know it's going to be healing for people who read it, because I had that intention, and we talk about the power of intention. But it always brings things to me, to light, that you maybe you didn't think about, maybe you didn't look at it the right way, um, because it's not safe. But when you are just like, putting it all on paper, not really looking at the grammar, not really looking the first time if it makes sense, it's such a healing process that brings to light more things that need to be healed, and also the recognition of the journey you've taken, which is so important to just give yourself compassion and grace for what you've gone through. So the journey is amazing. I recommend it to anybody. I mean, there's the other books coming out. I'm like, ooh, Beyond Endings, I can do that one. Beyond Conditioning, I can do that. How do I
Yeah,
do
and before you know it, you've written. I mean, I have a lady. She's been in like 3 books, right? And and all of these books, all of these chapters are actually becoming chapters in her solo book. So
Mm,
that's how she's going to use them and going to string it all together down the track. Yeah, so there's so many opportunities and possibilities, and I really resonate with what you were sharing when we take the time and allow ourselves to reflect on our journey. You know, every author that's gone through the process has shared that it's been either a celebration of how far they've come, or a release and a clearing and a healing of shame that they didn't even realize was still there. And for me, having a coaching background myself, I think that's the beauty. That's why I love doing this. It's for the transformation, for the empowerment of the authors, but then of course also what we share with the world, and how the book and the stories can inspire the reader.
and I have to say, Crystal does a beautiful job inspiring and leading the group to just tap into your higher self and your potential. I mean, there's an art that comes with writing, right, in a way that makes sense. Um, and the feedback was so genuine and amazing as well. I was terrified. Like, I sent my chapter and I'm like, I don't want to know. But it was good. So
Yeah, it's like again talk about conditioning, right? We still have this ingrained thing that we're handing in an English essay and it's going to come back and it's being criticized and ripped to shreds. But it's a very different process, because we're here to make everybody look the best that they can be, and we work together until that's achieved.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yes. No. So I so appreciate, and I will definitely do it again. So anyone who's watching, it's like, oh, I always wanted to be
Yay!
an author. I absolutely vouch for Crystal and her process and her team, and it's so beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Well, if you yeah, as I said, it's coming out next week in 7 days, on the
24th in
24th
the
or
US and
25th.
25th in Australia. Yes.
That's right. I had so many book launches. I have to remember my dates here.
Well, that's a good
So
problem to have.
it's a very good problem to have. Yeah. So the link to sign up for that, if you don't want to miss it, is also across the screen down there. And please reach out to Carmen and get the book, because she has an incredible free gift for anybody who purchases the book within the first 3 hours of the launch. Just to end up our conversation, do you briefly want to share what that is, Carmen?
Yes, so I have an upcoming masterclass that I have named Ignite Your Brilliance, and you'll be able to experience all 3 modalities of my practice. So there is a very curated class at the beginning with a deep breathwork session and then some group coaching. And the value that this masterclass brings is over $2,000. And I have not made it available to the public because right after the launch, so on next Friday for the US, I'm going to actually be selling it for, you're not going to want to miss it because it's going to be a couple $100 the first week, and then it's going to keep going in price. And that's just my contribution to the pod, right? Like, I know I've talked, another beautiful thing about writing this book is that you get to meet other, like-minded people that have the same journey as you. And everyone is putting so much love, and there's so many amazing gifts. I haven't tallied it, but I'm sure the total value, it's way up there.
Thousands.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So make sure you get your copy of the book in the first 3 hours. Send a screenshot to Carmen on the day so that you can get that incredible value masterclass for free. Thank you so much, Carmen, for being here, for the contribution that you shared in your spirit and your soul, and the light that you're shining in this world. I think you're an absolute inspiration for anybody to just follow their path and embrace uncertainty. And if people want to have those steps, for those logical ones, who want to get into the uncertainty with a system behind them, then yeah, your chapter is the perfect one for that. So thank you so much.